My name is Pete Shiffman, and I am the host of the NPO Media podcast based in Staten Island, New York. I recently read a local newspaper article about an old friend named Michael Camerado and an experience that he had been through. I reached out to Michael and I asked if it would be okay for me to record him, and he was gracious enough to agree. My only request of you, the listener, is to listen with an open heart and an open mind.
Hello, my name is Michael Commorato, 54 years old, and I live in New York City. Back in January of 2016, specifically January 8th, I suffered a major heart attack. I was in my room in my house. It was about 10:30 at night. I was with my wife and my daughter, and I didn't drink, didn't smoke. But I had diabetes, type 2, which I happened to bring on by myself. Thank you. And my breathing decided to stop. Couldn't breathe. It wasn't through the nose, but it was through the lungs. And I couldn't get a good grasp of air. And I felt myself starting to pass out. And I knew I was in trouble. Then I was coughing up yellow foam. Too late to be gross, but I said it. And I knew we had a problem, so my wife and daughter called the ambulance. They came. They assumed I was having a panic attack at the time. And my wife assured them he doesn't panic. He doesn't have a panic attack, never had one, blah, blah. He's having something major. Made it into the ambulance, and this is where my life changed forever. For the better, health-wise, but more importantly, spiritual-wise. So we're in the ambulance. We're traveling over to the hospital, and I'm passing out completely in the back of the ambulance. I have my wife and daughter in the ambulance, and I have 2 EMT techs, and we're traveling over to the hospital. I suddenly feel myself leaving my body. And of course, you're going to say a lot of it, hallucination. My oxygen level was down to 40. I had nothing coming into me. So your brain hallucinates. And I got it. And I understand what everybody's going to think. Because that just seems logical. If you can't use our 5 senses, if our bodies can't use the 5 senses that we were given, or created, or evolved, however you want to look at it now, nothing is logical to us. So this is something that goes way beyond logic. I see 5 shapes in the ambulance, 5 bodies. And I see myself. I see inside the ambulance, and I'm looking in a 360-degree view. So I'm able to see. I know we see with our 2 eyes. We see forwards. Some of us can't see peripherally too well. And I'm able to see the bottom, the top, the sides, all at one time. And I saw near the 4 other bodies spheres of light. They were, I'm going to say, a little bigger than bocce balls, if I had to compare them to anything. And they were bright. They were also round, but more sphere-like than round. And they were pulsating, and there was colors in them once in a while. And then I realized I was the 5th light that was in the car. And I just felt so unbelievably at peace. And I realized that this is what we are. And I know this is a lot to take in, because a lot of people are saying right now, listen, you had no oxygen go into your brain. The near-death experiences almost all sound like this, but that's the thing. They almost all sound like this. So if I was hallucinating, and I'm going to go with yes, I was hallucinating, my brain had to shut off in order for it to start activating the way it did. So I wasn't a butterfly milking a camel in a French pastry shop. That's hallucinating. At that time, when I realized I was a sphere, tons of messages or information or pictures and visions were being fed to me, and I heard everything. But I didn't hear anything in an English language because, well, that's what I speak. Not well either. So words weren't coming into me as sentences. They were coming into me as feelings, I could say, more than anything else to describe that. I was told I'm going back. And if you go back, I want you to tell everybody these messages. Now, who's telling me this stuff? I don't know at the time. I assumed it was a higher being, and I'm going to call the higher being God. For lack of a better word or name, which we don't have one, humans call him God. I go back into my body in a flash. I'm getting wheeled into the emergency room, and I have tons of information in my head after just being a second out on Earth time. Another thing is, when I was a sphere, there was no time. Time didn't exist, and that is so hard to comprehend or explain to anybody, that time doesn't work here. And I can't even describe it. I don't know how to say time didn't work. And the only reason I felt time again was when I came back into my body, but it felt like months had passed. So I'm asking the emergency room physician, flailing my arms, I'm saying, how long was I out? And she says to me, you're okay. You're in the hospital. We're going to take good care of you. I said, no, but I've been gone for months. And she said, no, you're right here. We're going to take care of you. With that, they knocked me out. I didn't hallucinate then. I was knocked out, intubated, and I had a major heart attack. Followed a week later, I had a 6 bypass surgery. With that, this entire stay in the hospital was peaceful. I wasn't afraid of anything because of all the messages I got. I was told I had to wait 3 years, which was another message, before I told anyone this. Now, if something like this happens and you see a UFO, or if you see Bigfoot, what do? You tell somebody right away. I saw Bigfoot. I saw a UFO. You've got to believe me. Now, I saw Santa. Of course, now we all know Santa doesn't exist. How do you keep it quiet for 3 years without wanting to burst at the seams to tell people everything you know now, and you have to keep it a secret? And I had no problem keeping it to myself, but I was in the hospital, so peaceful. I saw everybody was with me. I was in there for 3 weeks, and I didn't mind. I knew I wasn't dying because I had something to do in 3 years' time. Well, I knew I wasn't going to die in those 3 years. And not only do I know I wasn't going to die in those 3 years, but the truth is none of us are going to die. Ever. Our bodies are going to die. So from now on, when I say anything about death or dying, it strictly has to do with our bodies. It has nothing to do with what we are. I've come to realize, and again, this is very hard for me to even say, but prior to January 8th of 2016, I followed no religion. I still don't. But my belief then was, look, you do what you want. You believe whatever you want. This is the world. We're free to do, well, in most countries, we're free to do what we want. I know from this experience that I've had that we are 100% spirits. I've received dozens and dozens of messages, too many to name in this interview. But I will name a few that I think are really important. And my message right now is to try to get as many people I can to understand that we're spirits. And again, this has nothing to do with religion. And in fact, that was a message, is that religion is out of the picture. Don't worry about Catholic, Protestant, Judaism, Buddhism. I mean, there's too many religions to name. People are more worried about doing their religious rituals and traditions than what we really are. We are spirits. The second the male sperm hits the female egg, the spirit is born. Right then. That was the inception. When those two cells hit, the spirit happens. That light, that sphere, that 360-degree sphere awakens. You are now a human. Well, you're the thing that's going to run that human when the human develops. Because our bodies are, and I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times, we are just the transportation vehicle that is living in this plane. Now I sound like Star Trek. What do you mean plane? Star Trek. A plane of existence. There is another plane of existence. Undoubtedly, I've seen it. I've been there. And I can't say enough how important it is that we have to know that. And that our bodies can't live there, but our bodies can live here in this plane of existence that God gave us. The other plane of existence is where the spirits live, that each one of us has. We're in that plane after our bodies on earth die. You have to understand that none of us are dying. The only question is, are we living with God or are we not living with God? And that's the biggest message I have to get across to absolutely everybody listening. We're either living with Him or we're not living with Him. And the not living with Him is not the good way. Now, how do you live with Him? First of all, why is there so much bad in this world? God doesn't control this world, which is kind of eye-opening for me because I always thought maybe that was it. I didn't really not believe in God or believe in God. I didn't know what I believed prior to this. I just thought that everybody, as I said, should do their own thing and just have fun. Now I know I was completely, totally, 100% wrong. God wants us to be with Him. The reason we're here on earth and living this, what some could say, terrible, mundane, too much sham, drudgery, broken dreams, blah, blah. And there is. But man does a lot of things to man. Man is able to make his own decision, or her own decision, or her own decision for him. But it's man's decision to realize he's a spirit, and he wants to live with God, and he has to believe in God through Jesus. Now there's the J word. And this is crazy because I'm not the typical Jesus guy at all. And I can't come across more that, when I grew up, I went to Catholic school as a kid. Maybe went to church on Sundays. But then when I got older, I started to become a realist. I started to realize things in the world. I started to realize, oh, I have to pay my bills. Oh, I have to get behind on my bills. Oh, I can't pay my bills. Oh, who's that guy that just cut me off in the street? Who's the guy that cut me off in the line in the store? Why are they being nasty to me? Why is my work doing this to me? Everything was stress, pressure, stress. And it never ended. And to me, the realism was, this is life. I'm going to work 50 hours a week for 50 years. And I'm going to retire for 5. And I'll be dead. And then once I'm dead, I'm dead. And there is nothing else. It's going to be just like I was before I was born. And I thought like that for years and years and years. I realized it's not going to be like that before we were born. Because our spirits weren't born until your parents conceived you. Once that happened, the spirit's there. Now it's not the same. It would have been had you not had your spirit. But the spirit exists. And I want everyone to know that there is a spirit. You have to get it somehow. You have to know it's there. A conscious decision. It's very difficult to do. You can't just say, oh, I have a spirit in me. It's not really like in you. It's not like it's your heart and it's like a ball of light if the doctors open you up and they see, oh, don't let a spirit out. It's not here in this plane. But if you go to the other plane and you could see your outline of your body kind of in this plane, the spirit is there. And it's the only way it could be seen. And it's the only way you're going to be able to live with God forever. Now, what does forever mean? Forever, I don't want to be alive another trillion years. It won't feel that way. Because forever in eternity, in a place that has no time, is not the trillion times it takes us to go around the sun. Because I definitely don't want to live another trillion years. But you won't mind doing it there. It's a different feeling. It's a different place. Now, did I see heaven? No. So I can't tell you what it looks like, but I can tell you that it exists. There's also another place that exists, and that's the place you don't want to go to. Your fire, brimstone, no. It's going to be a lifetime, a forever, eternity of regret. Because when you get there and you decide that that's the place you're going to, it's just regret from here on out. And you're going to say, geez, this was real. All I had to do on earth, which is why we're here, is believe. I didn't have to join a religion. I didn't have to buy a plot in Zimbabwe. Just stupid things that people think they have to do to get to heaven. You don't have to do anything except believe. There is nothing else. I don't know if it's written anywhere, but it's faith and nothing else, and you get to heaven. That's the reason we're here. We never know when our bodies are going to die. That's the thing of it, too. You don't know when it's going to happen. And when it does, is it going to be too late? Are you going to get there and you're going to say, I regret what I did. God, could you take me now? And the answer is going to be no. He's only taking the people, the spirits that were here on earth in this plane of existence and believed. And also lived that life. You can't say you believe and then do crazy, stupid things. Because then you really don't believe. So, live life like you believe. Does this mean I have to shake a tambourine now and go into a Jesus bus? No. There's extremes to all religions. In fact, this is a lack of religion. There is no tradition or ritual that needs to be done to get to your goal. Now, let's assume I'm wrong. The people that don't believe in God right now, and they're right. Let's assume that's true. I'm wrong and they're right. Then you're dead anyway. So there's nothing to worry about because you're dead. And once your body dies, it's all over. You don't continue living. It's finished. But let's assume I'm right and there is a God and a spiritual life after this. And the people that don't believe in God are wrong. Then what's the worst thing that could happen? You live forever in heaven with God. Those are the two choices. You live forever in heaven with God, or you don't live forever in heaven with God, but you will live forever. I'm not asking for anybody to do anything that all they got to do is say, I believe in God through Jesus. That's it. There's no strange rituals to go through. No strange traditions to go through. I know this, you heard, oh, well, he's born again. He's holding the Bible and he's bashing and none of that is true. Just believe. And if you do, you will get into heaven. I think another message that we have to get across is one of hope. I know hope sounds like such a chinsy word. Oh, you got to have hope. That word hope means everything. If you have no hope, life means nothing. Everything I do now, and this is going to sound chinsy also, I do it for God. What do you mean? Well, I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I do it for God. I get stuck in traffic. I do it for God. Everything I do for God. What does that mean? Did I change my life? Well, yes, I did. But I'm not praying all day with my hands clasped together. Everything I do, I have hope. Because I know that when I do something, if I do it with God in mind, my whole hope is so huge. I have hope. I have hope when I live. When I get up in the morning, there's hope. When I'm in line in the store and someone cuts me off, I don't mind anymore. I don't care if someone cuts me off on the street. I don't care. Because I see everyone as a spirit. I see their bodies. I see their physical bodies. But I know that there's a spirit there. They might not know it yet. But you have to have hope. You have a spirit. And the hope is, how do I make God smile today? How do I make him smile all day? I want to put, now does God have a face? I don't know. I didn't see him. I don't know what he looks like. But he has love. Love is God, and God is love. You can't have one without the other. That's the hope. I don't want to know that at the end of my life, there was no hope, and all I had to do was work, pay bills, pay taxes, and die. That's no hope. Now that I have God, that I do everything for him, how could God know what each one of us are doing? It's impossible, because we can't. But you're thinking of God as some kind of human being, and nothing could be further from the truth. God is an entity that we can't comprehend. We don't understand it. We will, but we don't understand it right now. And that's where the faith kicks in. So hope is everything. And you'll receive your hope when you find your spirit, when you do things for God, because each one of us was placed here for a reason. Everybody's got a purpose. Everybody has a reason for being here. Many, many, many of us don't know what that reason is because you're not listening to God. Now, how do you listen to God? How do I listen to him? He's not really talking to me. Yes, he is. If you believe in him, he will talk to you, which is crazy for me saying this because I never believed this, but it's absolutely true. He does talk to you. When I hear people say, God talked to me. Oh yeah, did he really? I could actually say to them, all right, you know what? Maybe he did. Then wait, you're trying to tell me that bad people go to heaven. Now, I don't know. What is a bad person? When, good and bad is very subjective. So good and bad, it really depends on what side of the river you're looking at it. We all have a unique talent. It doesn't have to be singing, dancing, acting. A talent could be the way you love somebody. A talent could be the way you listen to people. These are talents. It's not, can I hit low C to high C on a piano? That has nothing to do with it. If you could do it, great. But if you could use your talent that you will find, because everybody has one, because everybody is unique. Just look at our fingerprints. God made every single person unique. Our fingerprints tell the story that everybody is completely unique. And the spirits are unique. No matter if they looked the same. When I was there, on the other side, I saw all the spirits looked the same now to me here on earth. But when I was there, I knew who each of those spirits were. And I didn't need to see my daughter or my wife's face inside the globe of the spirit. I knew it was them. Another strange thing to talk about, but it happened. Our bodies, as I explained before, are vessels that are housing our intelligence, which is our brain, our emotions, our feelings. Then again, there's the spirit, which we don't see, as stated before. Our bodies are rentals. What does that mean? They're leased. They're leased from God. He gave us the bodies. We have to return them kind of in the state that he wanted them to be in, which is a healthy state. Our bodies are his property. Yes, there are bodies, but he owns them. And he definitely owns our spirits. So try to keep your bodies as clean as possible. Soap and water, yeah, that might, but just try to keep them functioning properly as a human being was destined to do, was made to do. Now, I know that there are a lot of questions I've also received since only coming out with this about a month ago. What about infants? How can an infant ever believe in God, or a toddler? And, if there's an unfortunate accident with that infant, maybe stillborn, maybe the toddler, unfortunately, had an accident and the bodies die. Not to worry. And I know this is another message I was given. Infants, toddlers, up to a certain age, and it's only God's decision, that if you're not able or capable of determining and believing in a higher power, you're automatically going to live with God. He takes your spirit right away. So a baby who is unborn yet, that dies in the mother's womb, that spirit that was created when the two cells met is going to heaven. No questions asked. I used to work with people with autism. I did many years over at Lifestyles for the Disabled. And this is prior to my experience. And first of all, I loved my job working with these individuals. They taught me so much with their intelligence. And their intelligence was beyond any scope that I could have even thought of. They each had certain paths of, I'm going to say, categories that they knew, like walking encyclopedias. And I was floored. They would amaze me with every sentence out of their mouth. And I would say, how did you know that? How could you remember that? And this is my little brain trying to figure out. Now, mentally challenged individuals, some of them could be 30, 40, 50 years old. They're old enough to decide. Mentally challenged people might not be. But it's okay, because if they can't make that decision, God is taking them. So don't worry about them either. And then why did God make my son or my daughter to be like this? That was another many questions I've gotten like that. And the answer is, first of all, biology comes along. Biology has a lot to play with everything man does. There is a reason for that child, or your son, your daughter, or your father, your mother, whoever it might be. There's a reason they're here. But there's a reason. God has a reason. And again, if they can't make the decision to understand in a God, don't worry. So you want to get your family members and loved ones and friends. Are you trying to sell me Amway? Is this like soap? No. I have nothing to gain from it. This isn't some kind of multi-level marketing scheme. This is just the honest truth. This is what I saw. It's my story. It's my experience. But this has nothing to do with me. This is everybody else's story. And I hope everybody could see it that way. As I said, I'm not selling people Bibles or religious things and trinkets and buy this holy water, it's going to cure you. Nothing like that. It's faith plus nothing, and you will get into heaven. And I think that's all I have to say. And may God bless everybody out there. I really, really hope that you can understand me, because I know I don't speak like a clergyman or a rabbi or a priest or whatever. And I think I'm kind of glad that I don't, because, I'm just a guy from Brooklyn, New York, and this is what happened. So take that for what it's worth, and really, may God bless you. And I seriously mean that. May God bless you.
Michael, I want to thank you very much for sharing and for allowing me to record this. All the best.